Hello my viewer, and thank you once again for always keeping tuned in to TCL Media. My name as always Daniel Lovey, and today I'm joined by my crew, and on this side we have our one and only mentor
Joe Kidiaka,
and on the other side we are joined by our only one brother
Kevin
indeed. And today, being the month of Bipolar Awareness Month, we are going to discuss on 1, what is bipolar? Number 2, what are the causes of bipolar? And number 3, what are the effects? And maybe as we move on to this discussion, we are also going to see how are we able to overcome bipolar. And just to get onto this, so we can just think of maybe our mentor Joe Kidiaka. Bipolar has become a very big topic nowadays, and people are falling into it not knowing they have already got into it. Maybe they will get someone who will they will be able to tell them, you know, by the way, you are undergoing or you are suffering from bipolar, and like, what is bipolar?
thank you very much, Bwana Lovi. I think before we get to that, let's just find out, any of us who may know, can you define what the bipolar is? Because bipolar is one thing that it has been medically indicated, or you have to go and do tests for you to be able to have a result of whether you're bipolar. You can't tell whether you're bipolar or not unless you're medically tested. So maybe, I don't know, do you have a definition, or any of you have a definition?
Well, bipolar was formerly known as manic depression, and it's basically a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings. So in simple terms is where you find maybe 1 minute we are sitting here, you're in very good moods, high spirits. The other minute you're in very low moods, like extremely low moods. The other time you're in extremely high moods, which now is the manic. Now someone becomes like, it's a bit, actually they're extremely happy, you need to be contained. So that is what bipolar is.
So basically what we're understanding is that bipolar is a mood swing.
Yeah,
it's a mood swing of happiness to sadness, and that happens a lot. You notice a lot of people in the society would be mainly women. Women have that tendency to have swings. People call them swing moods, mood swings, but they may not be mood swings. It could be also bipolar. So maybe I would like to ask each one of you, starting with Lovi. Have you ever met someone who is experiencing bipolar, and how did you know it was bipolar, and how did you see them reacting?
Well, to be honest, I would say even as much as I encountered these people having bipolar, in one way or the other, I don't know how do I describe it, because do we describe bipolar by seeing the consistency in this person? Because even to some extent, I would even say that maybe one time I even encountered and experienced that kind of a disease, of which I don't know. When we talk about mood swings, at times you just sit and stare at something, and then it comes as a result of maybe you are in a season, in a period of whereby things are not working out, and today maybe, for example, you'll meet your friends and you laugh and you love fun and everything like that, and then in the midst of having fun you remember there is something wrong. Either the tension comes, maybe you are having fun and you remember that you have bad grades.
Thank you, Bwana Lovi, for that description of what you think bipolar would be. Maybe I'll ask Kevo, what do you think bipolar is, and have you ever met friends who are bipolar, and what have you seen in terms of their behavior?
Well, I can't say I've encountered someone with bipolar, but from maybe what I can gather from reading here and there, bipolar is like, as I said, we're sitting here, the next minute I'm hyper for no reason, just out of nowhere. I feel like I need to start jumping up and down. I feel like I need to start dancing, and then the next minute I'm just sad for no reason. I just feel I'm moody, maybe even start crying, or I'm just angry for no reason. You ask me what the problem is, I tell you I don't know, but I'm just angry, I'm just moody. You ask me why are you happy, I don't know, I'm just happy. I just feel I'm a happy person. So I think that is what I can say bipolar is from my layman's view.
Thank you very much, Lovi and Kevin, for that description of what you think bipolar is. But just to sum up with what we are thinking in terms of what bipolar could be actually the swing moods from one end to another that a person has and they're normally out of hormonal issues. Your hormones react to different times on different situations depending on what your experience is. Like you could find this, and as I said, this would be found very commonly with the ladies and the female sexes, because the female have a tendency to have monthly cycles, which also affect their moods. But also during that monthly cycles, they also have issues to do with their past, which also affects their present. And that's why you're saying you'd find a situation where a lady would be very happy, a girl would be very happy, you're having a very good conversation, but something just triggers of her past, or something she's going through, or something she has gone through, which immediately just turns her into another depressive mood, and she starts crying. And when you ask her why are you crying, she's telling you she doesn't understand why. But it's her, something has just happened to her hormones, or has happened to her mind, or her inner soul, which is affecting her operations or how she's feeling. And that's why it's important for us to understand what are the causes of all this bipolar. And that's one of the things that we'll be discussing this month, because it's becoming very common within ourselves. And it's until they have been people have gone for medical checks that people realize, actually I'm bipolar. It's a long time people used to think just mood swing. Leave her alone, she's just growing up, she's going through her 13-year-old time, she's going through her teens. But it may not be. It may just be experiences in their life that have affected these people. And as you grow, they grow onto you. So one of the things that we need to look at is what are the causes of bipolar? And one of the main causes of bipolar is stress, for instance.
Stressful life events.
Stressful life events. Like, how are you brought up? How did you grow up? What were your stress levels in terms of in school? Like, for instance, you were just talking earlier about your exams. If constantly you've been having exams disappointments, that can cause you stress. And depending on how many exams you've done over the years, you've done your class 8, you've done your form 4, you've done your degree, you're now doing your master's, depending on what your expectations were as you were going through school, and what the expectations of your parents were, that could also give you stress. Or also your peer pressure. What were your friends getting vis-a-vis what you got? And how far were you competing? And that's why I always tell people, in life, run your own race. Forget about the other races. It's good to be competitive in terms of trying to see what your friends are doing, but it's important to run your own race, because you give yourself less stress and you give yourself momentum according to how you're moving. Because some of the things, we are not all created the same, our brains are different. But maybe I just want to know, in school, you were just talking earlier about your results. How was your growing, and what was your performance vis-a-vis your stress levels? What were you feeling that would stress you?
Well, I would say one thing, anytime you are given assignments, and maybe when we close our schools and you go you have closed schools, maybe you've gone for a midterm, obviously our parents will always demand to see the results, and maybe will tell you, work on this, and then during that period you work on that subject or a specific grades that you want to upgrade from one to the other. Now when you get back to school now, you have something in mind. First of all, you want to improve. The next thing, you also have to impress your parents in regards to whatever you are getting in class. And now when you try to, as much as you can, you do and you do it, you do it and you do it again and again. Now the exam comes, and then all of a sudden you get something totally from whatever you had expected, and then now that one gives you another kind of a feeling and mood swings. Now how am I going to get through this? That's why you find that, at least I would say, one way or the other, we had opportunities to if you want to drop a certain subject, if you feel that you cannot continue with it, those they were the optional subjects. So you gave a lot of focus into this subject, because you are looking you are looking at the other end. Maybe now, for example, for you to become a doctor, you have to specialize on certain subjects, and maybe now you've given yourself, I want to be a doctor, and you see the subject now that gives you or qualifies you to undertake that course, it is the most subject that you are failing. So when you give yourself to it, and then you're like, now for me now to graduate or move from one class to the other, you have to drop this type of subjects, and then when you get to that point, you're like, now I just have to give it up. And maybe I'd promised my parent and told my dad, I want to be a doctor, and I promised that I won't fail in this. Now the results come vice versa. Now you begin, now I have dropped this subject. Now you start thinking, Now, what other else course would I go into? I had given myself into this subject knowing that I want to become a doctor, and now I have failed in this, and now you begin now. What will I say?
Let me ask you,
Yeah,
Bwana Lovi, is it because you want to become a doctor because your father wants you to become a doctor? Or is it your inner feeling of a career that you'd enjoy yourself? Because one thing I want to say, and it's very unfortunate with parents, a lot of parents who never became doctors and lawyers, we try and live in our children. We want to be what we never were in school. And also, one thing I also understand, also I look at, and one thing I remember when we were growing up, our parents used to tell us, you could find your parent is pushing you to do something, a particular cause. But because they have seen that they did not do that kind of cause, and the cause that was taken by other people, maybe they look successful, and so they want to live with you in those things. And sometimes the pressure that our parents give us is pressure that gives us stress. And so that stress carries you in life. And the stress is one thing that affects the mind. And stress towards a child, you find a lot of children get disappointments because what you are not reading for yourself. You're now reading for your father. You're reading for your mother. And yet, when you look at their results, and I always tell people, there is no way you can get an A student when your parents, and the parents were C students. I mean, it's very hard to find the C plus C to become an A. You have to have both of you been sharp or one of you very sharp for you to get a very sharp child. So sometimes we over-push the children to try and perform what we didn't perform, but we forget that these are human beings, and you could push them to a level that they can be able to loosen out and be able to get stressful. And I don't know whether that's the same experience you're finding, that you're looking into a career and you're living a career that is not your desire, but your parents' desire. And I'll give you an example just after we finish this.
Personally, it was never the case for me. Personally, I can say my parents support more of what I want. So it's as if I'm the one who's giving them direction as to what I want to do in my life. But I can say I've seen it with a couple of my friends, where you're being told, well, lazima upite because I want you to become a doctor, and it is a must to become a doctor. If it is not that, then they tell me I'll not pay school fees, I'll let you go. You can live your life out there. Because if you don't want to become a doctor, I don't think anything else can pay better than being a doctor. So you have to become. So now you find this, as they're busy reading, it's not fulfilling to them. So it causes a lot of stress. And that could be a cause towards bipolar. Yeah.
So basically what we're looking at, and I think we need to bring our minds back to, is that a lot of stress levels are created by our parents' pressure. Parents are giving you pressure and trying to compare you with other people. Like I remember when we were growing up, we had this thing where our parents would now ask you, what number did you become? And every time you meet other friends of yours, you have come to play, and they have come to pick you to go and play. And the first thing your father is asking, so what number were you? And you, what number were you? And then he's picking information. So in the evening, he can start telling you, now you're playing around with people who are number 2, 3, you are number 17. You know, now, and you see, they think that's a way of motivating you, and yet it's a way of bringing you down, because then it gives you a bad ego. Your ego goes down, and you start wondering, what do I do with myself? And one thing I would like to say also, and I want to give you a very practical example. At one time, I used to work at Kenya Utalii College, and I remember in the principal's office, we one time had a case of a student who had come to, his father was known to the head of the college, and so came to see the principal on whether he could join the college. And so he was referred to my office, and I sat down with this young man and I asked him, so why do you want to join the college? He said, since I was a child, I've always wanted to do hotel management. So I asked him, so what's your schooling up to? He told me I've done up to my master's in law. This is a student who had done LLM. He had done his LLB, first degree of law. He had done his second degree of law, LLM, from the UK. And as I was sitting there with him, he went to his pocket and said, these are the degrees I got, but I don't want to do law. These were for my father. I now want to do my career. And I've just been arguing with my father, and that's why he brought me here, is because he thinks I'm mad. For me, I don't want to be a lawyer. My dad is a lawyer, he's a judge, but that's his career. For me, I want to go hotel management. So we enrolled him into hotel management at the college, and he came. And he was our top student for 4 years. He had done LLB,
Yeah.
And you can imagine LLB in London is not cheap.
Yeah.
But he said that was for my father. So I came back and told my father, that's your cause. I am going to do my cause. So he did his 4 years. He got his hotel management diploma. From there, he now went to the US. He schooled on to his degree, and now he did his master's. And I met him the other day, and he told me, now I do what I loved to do.
Yeah.
But the 6 years or the 5 years I was in the UK, I was doing them for my father. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you don't have a father who's understanding, or who can be able to draw back, then you get into depression. And there are many people who have done a lot of many causes, who are musicians, who are an architect come musician. But when you look at his career, it's more on music as opposed to his architecture. Like the Kofi Olomide and all those. Those are people now who go, you follow your dream as opposed to follow the pressure that you had. So you're schooling, but your mind is not there. And I like what Kevo, you said, is that it's important that we parents also listen to you and understand what can my child be. And nowadays with a lot of arts and music, I think a child can be anything, so long as he stays focused and is able to manage his successes. And I think, as you are saying, it's a lot of pressure where parents also give stress to the children as they grow. And maybe let's look at, that's one cause, stressful upbringing. That's the cause of bipolar. Issues to do with families is what is the stress levels at the family level. Parents that fight in front of the children, or always having tension in the house, causes tension and stress to the children. So if the environment where the children are growing is a very combative environment, there's a tendency of that child becoming stressful. He may not talk it to the parents because he can't tell the parents at that moment, but will carry that stress later in life. And so anytime anything triggers, they remember, this guy is talking to me this way because men think women are not. And now that causes another issue because she saw that happen to her mother. And those kind of things carry a lot of baggage into marriage and also in their lives. So you'll find a lot of things that the way children are brought up, the way breakups have happened, that a very sad breakup between a father and a mother, and the child has to live with the mother, and now always thinks about the father, she has no father figure. And I don't know whether those are the experiences you guys are experiencing, and it's happening more in your in this generation, that there are a lot of those broken families. And I don't know what are the experiences that you have about girls who have grown up, or boys who have grown up with that kind of environment, and how are they, and how are they now almost, or how are they candidates or victims of a bipolar disorder? I don't know whether you've gone through such things as you're growing up.
Well,
or now in your life and when you're in college.
Okay, well, I've interacted with them a lot, and majority of the people who also undergo such kind of things. And I would say one, if I'm not wrong, they could be genetic. I was almost saying genetically modified. I was almost going to GMO. It's genetic, you know. Someone will tell you like my dad had this, and now that thing now it is on the son. My grandfather, my grandmother had this, and you know, you could even see the pattern. It is with this, it is with the uncle, it is with the auntie. Like you can relate, and you find that I don't know how this is going to be if this thing is transferred from one person to the other. That means that it's so serious. And through family links, I've seen that there are people, I will not say that they are always forever silent, you know. This person will always tell you, I'm always, how do we call this? Someone doesn't like to interact with people. I'm looking for this word. Yeah, I'm just introvert. And this person will always just be keeping quiet all the way since morning to evening. And you will wonder how this kind of, you know, someone will just say, I respect myself, I respect my dignity, but looking into it, this guy, there is a problem that he has. You know, he doesn't talk to people. Or maybe you will just, it is rare to find him laughing. It is rare to find him with groups, with people. And that is the kind of, now you start beginning asking yourself, what kind of a disease is this? So
you know, there's something there's a saying that says, makes something a dull boy. What is the saying? There's too much.
Work without play.
Yeah, work without play.
Makes Jack a dull
Makes
boy.
Jack a dull boy. Because sometimes you need to balance some of these things. Because I think what is happening with a lot of people, they are more on the academic and forgetting that there's a social aspect of your future, of your life. And that's what the brain then stays too much in the academic and forgets to open up to relax on many other things. And that's why you find even in school calendars or in school programs, there's always a PE time, there's always a break time, because you can't be constantly on books. And there's a misconception that when you read too much, you understand more. But I think when you read too much, it can also affect your mind and also affect the way you operate. And that's why you're saying some of these guys, you'll find someone just very quiet. But if you actually went to that guy's brain and you had a bit of time to talk to him, he would tell you the things he's going through. It could be a past experience that he's trying to fight. And because he doesn't know how to open up, and that's why we're saying the difference between young men and young ladies, a young man may do the extreme. He may get into alcohol, he may get into drugs. But the lady could go and now talk more with her friends, cry more. But the man, because he's been told you can't cry, you can't think, unalia nini. So he becomes hardened, and as this boy is hardening, he's hardening the wrong things. And those wrong things one day will come out as a bad reaction. But for the girl, also the same. And that's why you find even on social media of late, a lot of very hyper ladies on social media, but are committing suicide. So when you look at it, it could be a bipolar problem, where the depression goes too deep and she can't control it. But yesterday she was very hyper. I don't know whether you've had such experiences in your.
Just before Kevin reacts on that, would it be wise if we now try to say we break the notion that at men they ought not to cry, you know, like mwanaume aliangi, so that is the thing. But
who told you? Who told you that? Who told you that? Because I hear that a lot.
Even when we were growing up, personally, you know, I would just even fall down and I'll feel some pain and then, or even damage on something, and then I begin crying, and then my mom would just tell me, "Mwanaume aliangi." So you grow up like, even when you interact with the other small boys you are playing around, and then the boys fall down, and you know, we are muka bro, mwanaume hafai kulia.
So she's trying to make you a sadist, a hard guy.
Now you are supposed to be hard.
A hard guy.
And now come to translate it on the other side. Now when you are going through pain, you feel like, I just have to cry, but you feel no, mwanaume aliangi. So now you translate your pain with not crying, and you end up even beating the walls, doing no.
Fighting your wife, beating up your girlfriend.
So that you might be able now to just release it. So, can we say that we give a chance that if you feel like crying so that it can come out? Just
it's important. It's important. Let me tell you, we are human and emotional.
Wait,
so Kevin, it's important. I know, Kevin, you're trying to say something.
About that.
Well,
like you look like you never have cried in life. And that's why maybe you wear shades, so that you cannot cry in the shades and no one will notice.
Well, I'd say I don't know how to express my emotions, so to say. But then I believe it's not that you shouldn't cry, but I believe you shouldn't cry in front of certain people. Like, that's just my opinion. My opinion is I can be vulnerable with a certain bunch of people, like my homies, has to be men, or in front of my father, but I cannot do it in front of like my mom or my female cousins or my girlfriend.
Who told you this?
Well, that's my belief.
You grew up being hardened.
It's not really hardened. Well, I've never seen my father cry, so why should I be the first one to do it?
Okay. So when you feel sad, what do you do?
Work out. Simple.
You work out?
Yeah.
What do you have nowhere to work out? Who will you work out on?
I can't miss. You can do press-ups in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you see, that sadness, and as you're saying, that toughness, hardness, is what is making the society very violent. Because when you can't do it, and you're feeling sad, and you have carried all this sadness out of the marketplace into the house, you know what becomes your punching bag? Your spouse. And that's why there's a lot of fights in homes, because we have bottled up so much, and you're wondering, why is this noise on for me? And because you can't help it, as you don't have a wall to hit, you have nothing to do, you can't go out and hang around and talk around with friends and talk the experiences, you end up becoming violent in the house. But and those quiet people are the worst and violent people in the house.
Yeah. But then on that, there's still the emotional part. It's a bit of a deviation, but would you say, I'd say men are emotional, everyone is emotional, but I think it matters how you tend to act on the emotion that matters. So you may not cry, but you might choose to, like, let's say you've gone through a heartbreak. You know, as a dude, you can't, hey, as a dude, there's some things you can go at them and you know, there's a stigma. So now instead of doing that, you just choose to, let me head into working. Now the only thing, I'm just channeling the pain to something that will benefit me.
Most times, it's not even working. Most times you decide, this is what I was done, I will do this to very many other people. So don't tell them it's about working. It's about working on other relationships that will get other people hurt. Yeah. And so you become this bad boy. Bad boy. Anyone who comes your way, come.
Like
then you want to hit back and try.
Like there was this now, it was this period that there was also this guy, I don't know whether it was on Twitter actually, and the guy was like, I truly remember my brother Samson from the Bible. After it has been, I don't know how many years since Delilah had broke Samson. So we are in a mission to ensure that now we are paying back.
Yeah.
And I am done with the first 10 of them, remaining other 20. So can I get other guys who are going to support me in this? So they are trying now to give a comeback of what happened for Brother Samson in the Bible.
So sometimes it may not be what you're saying, go back to your work. No. You go back into night to prove a point to yourself that I was not the problem. And so that's some of those things would come, as we are saying, it's about the family.
Yeah.
How are you brought up to understand how to handle some situations? Because for a man, as you're saying, you're not allowed to cry. But are you allowed to say sorry?
Yeah. It's accountability. If I've
No, that's what I'm saying. You've done something and then you tell your spouse or your friend, I'm sorry I did this.
Yes, if I'm done on the wrong, yes. But
Would
if
you
I'm
do
not,
that?
Never ever.
I would. Why not?
No, but that's what I'm saying. So that's one of the things that if you can do that, then of course, then you can be. That's emotion. Sorry is an emotional place. It's trying to accept, which very few men accept. You better say no. It was never me. It wasn't me.
We can cry in private.
Crying in private is very important, and that's why we say even when you're bereaved or when you have an issue, please take time and cry. Like I've seen that with myself. In the last 1 year, I've lost two very close people. My father the year before and my brother last month. And I remember closing myself up and saying, I want to cry out this thing. During the burial, I held it on, but I had to go somewhere into my own closet and just cry it out because I knew it's going to carry me, it's going to walk, it's going to mess me up. And it's important just to cry because you can't say you're so hardened that you can't cry. But it's good, as you're saying, look for a closet so that you don't also look like, because it also perceives your weakness, which is not a perception, but it could be perceived. And for you, it will affect you also in the ego. So the best thing to do is look for your private place, but it's important for a man to cry. The third issue that we are looking at in terms of what is the causes of bipolar.
One of them is the childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma, which is also what is related to what we are saying about childhood trauma, whereby is how, for instance, childhood trauma, how would you put childhood trauma?
I would say when we are still growing up, there are some things that we have been exposed to. Maybe we were not supposed to be exposed to because in one way or the other it is going to affect our growing up. And you know, we could be growing and I don't know how to say it, but I just want to link with what you said. For example, now we would see our fathers come home drunk. You know, I will not say that I experienced such, but out of
no, it's okay if you experience. It's part of life.
But getting, you know, when you get to class and you are schooling with other young children, you know, when you're in class 1, sometimes a teacher will come in class and say, "How was your night? Did you take supper?" And then you will just see a child at the corner or a young girl or a young boy at the corner crying. And so, you know, the teacher will question them. What happened? Daddy came home last night and he gave mom a very thorough beating, and then even we never slept. I went to sleep at my neighbor's home and then we could not even take supper. And you know, that child would grow knowing that his father or their father is very violent.